All right, what's going on, faithful? This is T minus 10 days until the first day of the draft. And man, I can't wait. I can't wait for this day to come. And so today I just wanted to get in here for a little bit and talk about offensive linemen. Let's get into it right away. I want to talk about three guys in particular, one early rounder, one mid rounder, and one late rounder that I really like. But without further ado, let me also say thank you so much for joining me here. I am Guy Deal. This is Niners on the Go podcast. And thank you again for leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate it. And it helps me grow the channel, helps me bring more content to you guys. So just want to say, this is a class of O-linemen that is really interesting. And it's interesting for a couple of reasons. I think that there is some great depth at tackle for sure. And you can talk about left tackle, right tackle, guys that have the versatility to do both, and guys that are 4-year seniors, 5-year seniors, even some 6-year seniors as well in this class. A guy like Keegan Tross, who I've talked a lot about, is going to be 25 years old, I think, by the time the season begins in 2026, but a great, versatile swing tackle out of Missouri. He's not the guy I'm talking about today, but just to kind of outline, some of these guys have a lot of experience in college, and some of that I think is really helpful, whether you're going to be a full-time starter or whether you're going to be a guy in the league that is just going to be available to be a swing guy at a position of need, as we all know, right? These guys are definitely needed at left tackle, no doubt, because of the blind side, but both left tackles and right tackles in the NFL these days, it's a passing league. It's going to continue to be a passing league, and it's going to continue to be a league that is dependent on guys that are athletic enough and intelligent enough to utilize their skill set in the context of the offense that they're in and utilize it to the best of their abilities and execute consistently. And so when I'm watching these guys, I'm looking for guys that are great athletes, obviously, but also guys that can dominate at the point of attack, and guys that can help block, guys that have good footwork, and guys that just show up on tape again and again and again. So with that said, one guy that just showed up and just jumps off the page to me is Demetrius Crownover. I've talked about him on the channel before, but Demetrius Crownover is a guy that if the 49ers can get an extra second rounder, if they can get back into the third round, I think that they really need to invest in a guy that probably will be taken within the first 100 picks, maybe the first 80 picks. Certainly he's going to be somewhere in there where he's one of the better tackles and tackle prospects that would be a great guy to groom behind what we believe to be will be a signing of Trent Williams very soon, so that this guy has a year, great big-bodied guy, dominant at the point of attack, but continues to drive and has just a great anchor, has great footwork, has agility for a guy his size, which is something that we always talk about with Trent Williams. The thing that is just fascinating about Trent is at his size, he's so fluid in his movement and his agility. And he's a guy that obviously he's fast, but his footwork is incredible, and he uses it to his advantage, and he uses his leverage extremely well. So to me, Demetrius Crownover is some version of that. And I think that that's what you need to try to replicate, is somebody that is going to be solid or great. So from solid to great on every single snap, especially when they're protecting your $250+ million investment in Brock Purdy. So Demetrius Crownover is a guy that second round maybe falls to early third round, but I think, a guy that's in that top 50 to 100 picks, I probably would say more like 70 to 100 picks, but a guy that would be a great guy to trade up to get and then groom him as he's learning this offense and as he's learning the league, and obviously as he's learning behind the future Hall of Famer Trent Williams, which we all hope will sign at some point here soon. And then one of the mid-round guys to me that I really like, and I should have prefaced this by saying I want to pick one tackle, one guard, and one center. And so I'll go with my center pick right now, and that is Remington Award winner, which is given out to the best center in college football in the land. And that was Logan Jones, who, by the way, played for Iowa, who was also voted the best offensive line in general in the land as well. Great offensive line. I mean, they work so well as a unit But these individual guys, whether you're talking about a Jennings Dunker, whether you're talking about Bo Stevens, whether you're talking about Logan Jones, like I said, the center, I think the 49ers need to get to a point now, even if you believe that Brendel will be the guy there still this year, and then maybe you have some depth now with guys like Brendan Toth and you have obviously Vidarian Lowe and all these. Sorry, I said Brendan, I meant Brett Toth, Vidarian Lowe, and Robert Jones, who probably figures as your left guard right now, but will be obviously competing as well, especially if you bring in a left guard. We'll get to that third guy really soon, and that will be the guard. And to me, though, I still think you can't completely avoid the center position and the amount of talent that you still need to add there. I think that, and not that they're completely avoiding it, because I know that apparently John Lynch likes Toth to be kind of that backup center, and they have other guys that they can put back there as depth pieces. But I still think you need to get more talent there. And what better time to do it than to find a way to get probably in the third or fourth round, maybe even he drops to one of your comp picks at 127, one of your comp picks at 138, 139. What better time to do it than to take the best center in college football this past season in Remington Award winner Logan Jones, a guy that he's not the biggest guy in the world, but hey, we have an undersized center right now, and yet a guy that I think can run this scheme really well because he also has great footwork. Now, again, he's much younger than the current center that we have. He's a guy that doesn't come with that amount of mileage. He's a guy that also is incredibly smart, and I think can lead that group and lead them in help blocking, in his footwork, and lead by his example. Obviously, just understanding his assignments constantly. I believe he only allowed a couple of sacks these last few seasons at Iowa. Just incredible. Not much pressures too as well. He's a guy that I think that the most impressive thing about him is that I feel like he's really strong, obviously in the ground game, which most offensive linemen are better at run blocking than pass blocking. But I think his consistency in the pass game is also there when you watch the tape. I think that it's not, his anchor doesn't suffer because now he's pass blocking. I think his hand usage is really strong. So he's not a guy that's going to get called for many penalties for holding because he understands how to position his hands and he has great feet and balance. And this is the thing about being a center. Obviously, you need to know everyone's assignments and you need to get them in the right spot. But the biggest thing is you yourself need to be on your P's and Q's and do it at a high level. And I think that this guy is an absolute technician at what he does and in his craft. So Logan Jones would be my pick if he's there. You might need to trade into the back of the third, maybe. I definitely think in a lot of mocks that I do, he's there in the fourth, probably early fourth, not always there late into the fourth. So he might be a guy you do need to trade up a little bit to get because of the talent. And obviously, like I said, because he did win the award for best center in the country and deservedly so. Now, let me get to my third guy. The third guy is guard, left guard, played left guard for, I can play right guard too, but played guard for Notre Dame. Didn't play all season. He did get hurt. Okay. And before everybody goes all up in arms and decides that this isn't the guy, he was really healthy prior to that. Okay. And so he did get hurt. It was nothing so serious that it would be a long-term thing. For the most part, this is a guy that is extremely durable, extremely smart also. Again, and I say that because the way that I watch these guys use their technique and how they play. He's a guy that, and I've said this in the past, but really great at his help blocking. So he holds up well at his point of attack with his initial assignment, but then I like when guys, especially at that size, are so fluid in being able to kind of slide over. And we talk a lot about this with quarterbacks. Can you slide up into the pocket, back? I mean, Brock is maybe the best in the league right now at doing that kind of like back stepping and still keeping his eyes downfield and having the ability to be accurate as he's moving, and he's just, kind of herky-jerky going back and forth to the sides. I think Brock is probably about as good as anyone at that lateral movement and that backward movement. Well, this guy is probably one of the best offensive linemen I watched on film at just sliding the protection or sliding his own protection assignment in helping his teammate being able to help block after he's already blocked his initial assignment at the point of attack. Again, to me, a guy that understands where to place his hands, great feet, always seems to be more on, I shouldn't say on his toes, but seems to have a good base, good balance. Isn't a guy that is caught flat-footed where usually you get overpowered, because eventually when defensive linemen, especially these big D tackles, they really get into your body, they can push that momentum backwards and push you back onto your heels. He never seemed like he was in his heels very much when I was watching him. So again, a guy that definitely would have been drafted higher had he not gotten hurt and played as little as he did. But a late round steal for a guy that, again, very similar to Logan Jones, a technician, but at the guard position. Again, Notre Dame, I believe this guy was a team captain as well. So he's just a good player, really good player, and playing for these programs. And look, that's another thing about all this. I don't take lightly where these guys play and for what programs and how they're doing. These guys are playing in big games. They're not just playing and not doing things at a high level on a big stage. I think it's really important that guys not just play well against the subpar teams, but that they play well against the really good teams. And that's one other thing I liked about Billy Schrauth and Logan Jones, and again, Demetrius Crownover. These three guys, they play really well against top competition. So they're not going to shy away from some of the better players in the NFL. And I think coming in as rookies, these guys will have an opportunity to compete for spots. And if anything, they're going to be ready to go as soon as someone goes down. They'll go in and step in, and they'll show their talent right away in the league. So those are my guys, my O-linemen. I can't wait to break down some more position groups for you guys, but those are my three picks that just have jumped off the page to me, somewhat underrated as well, especially some of those last two guys. And again, I don't feel like Demetrius is getting enough love. So Demetrius Crownover, definitely the tackle to keep an eye on in that second, third round, definitely maybe mid-second to late second round. So thanks so much, you guys. Talk to you soon, Faithful.